Welcome to FemFlex Friday. Two Miss Olympias in the house. Whitney Jones joining me, and of course I'm Lenda Murray. And I'm so excited today to have three amazing IFBB pros joining FemFlex Friday. And the topic, because for me, when I think of the Olympia stage, and going to all of the shows, I get the opportunity to see athletes, the workhorses, the ones that they're not qualified for the Olympia. You see their passion, they're preparing for that Olympia stage. And so to me, the foundation of our industry, those three athletes joining us today, we have Jeannie Feldman, champion, welcome, women's physique IFBB pro, and we have Tanya Chartrand, IFBB women's physique pro, and Ashlyn Brown, bikini IFBB pro. Hello, thank you ladies for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, let's get started.
Yes, so we have tons of questions because a lot of people are asking and they're so uncertain about the Olympia qualification system. It's all point-based, and of course, if you kind of go in, you're fortunate enough to win the show. That's obviously what we all shoot for, but it's not that easy. If only it was.
Right, if only it was.
But you guys all competed at the Olympia last year, and we would love to hear your journey because the point system can be very beneficial, but it also can be a brutal journey for those who are having to chase points just to get to the Olympia stage. So we want to hear your stories, but first let's have each of you introduce yourselves so that we can all learn a lot more about each of you and kind of some of your quick accomplishments. So Jeannie, let's start off with you first.
Hi, everybody. Of course, my name is Jeannie Feldman. I'm women's physique. I live in Miami. I've been doing bodybuilding since 2016. Competed in my first show as a figure competitor. I qualified for nationals and did nationals 2016 November. Got my pro card and been competing ever since. I love bodybuilding. I mean, women's physique, bodybuilding.
Wow, so did you turn pro in figure, or you turned pro in women's physique?
I turned pro in women's physique.
Okay.
I competed my first show as a figure. I only did one show as figure, and then decided to switch over for nationals to women's physique.
I see.
And best decision ever.
Awesome.
It obviously is working well for you, so good choice.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Very good choice.
Tanya, how about you? Share a little bit about yourself as well.
Well, I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I've been bodybuilding since 2015. I actually originally started doing bikini. I did one bikini show in 2015, and that was kind of funny. Just because I had too much muscle and I didn't recognize that at the time being a new competitor. So I switched quickly over to women's figure, and I did 3 shows from women's figure to win my pro card in 2015. And then I competed. I took a couple of years off because I was actually living in BC, and then I moved over to Toronto. So from there, took a couple of years off. I hit the pro stage as a figure athlete for 2 years, I would say. And then last year I transitioned. I did one figure show and I transitioned to women's physique midway through the year. So I've done actually 3 women's physique shows. And yeah, I definitely found my calling in women's physique. Very happy, love it.
Quite a journey, starting with bikini and then to figure and then to women's physique. But again, it sounds like that was the best choice for you, and the fact that you love it, even more important.
Yeah, so you did 3 shows in women's physique, and you made it to the Olympia. You were on the Olympia stage in 2020.
Yeah, I actually competed at the Tampa Pro in 2015 as figure. And I left there, and 3 weeks later, I jumped on a plane and went to Shreveport, Louisiana, and did the women's physique show there. And I actually won both Masters and Open at my first women's physique show as a debut.
Wow.
Wow.
So
that's not an easy accomplishment. Congrats. Wow.
it was very exciting.
Yeah, of course.
That was a great decision. Made it to the Olympia stage. All right, let's start with, how about Ashlyn? Give us some information on you. I know you're already on the road in the circuit competing, so tell us about you, Ashlyn.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Ashlyn here. So I started competing 2015. I only did one show. I only prepped for like 5 weeks. Honestly, I had no clue what I was getting into. I didn't really know anybody that competed at all. So whenever I prepped, it was kind of just like blindly going into it, just kind of wanted to get my feet in there, see if I even liked it. I got first call out. I didn't place in the top 5. I ended up placing 6th place. And it just motivated me. It just like, I saw the amount of muscle that these women had compared to what I had, because I'm a very small person. I'm 5 foot. My stage weight is normally around 100 pounds. And in my off season, I normally gain about 8 to 10 pounds, really just depends. But at the time, I was only like 90 pounds. So when I started, I was just a stick.
So tiny.
I had no muscle at all. And I just prepped for a couple weeks, kind of just got lean, and then got on stage to just see like how I would do. And I did okay. I mean, I got, 6th place, and I believe that there was, I think that there was 35 women in my class. So I did good for what I was, aiming for, obviously, but I really, really, really wanted to take the time after seeing the muscle. I really took the time off. So I took 11 full months off before I got on stage again. So I built, it took me, I want to say I put on 17 pounds at first, just to get, to try to get over to that hump, trying to get over to get the weight on, but which is hard for me because I'm so little. So it took a little bit to get up there, but then I placed 2nd. I got nationally qualified at my 2nd show. So after that, I just started hitting the national stage, and I placed top 5 every time I stepped on the national stage. So I did 3 national shows, and then ended up 2018 at nationals in November getting my pro card. So.
And Ashlyn, you're already running in the point system for 2021, correct?
I'm the highest point earner in 2021 right now. Yes.
That's a great position to be in.
Yes, it is.
You're working the system properly. You're doing it right, girl.
So then you did, what, 2 shows already?
I've done 4 shows for this season.
4 shows for this season. Wow.
Yes.
For you. Good for you.
And so you're in the lead, as far as in bikini, as far as points.
Yes, I am in the lead currently. And then last year I went to the Olympia as the first place like bikini Olympia point earner. So like I had the highest points going into the Olympia last year.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, you're on the right track, obviously. So I'm sure that will continue so you can solidify the Olympia qualification for this year as well. So congrats on that.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And I like the idea that, people like to say when they talk about bikini competitors, she had to put on weight. You put on muscle to, you said you were, what? You said 90 pounds?
I was 90 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, but I can see your shoulders. You definitely weight trained. So much said for bikini, not weight training and trying to get there.
17 pounds, that's not easy. And the fact that you did it, because being that small, you aren't going to be competitive, not at the pro level. So, but a lot of people do.
Absolutely.
They have that struggle with, well, I want to look stage lean year round, and it's not a reality. So you've got to put in the time, but obviously, that's a true testament to an amazing athlete. So, and I'm sure both of you other girls know the same thing. You've had to probably go through the same trials of taking that time off, and of course, that's some other stuff we want to get into as well.
Yeah. So my question next. So 2021's coming up. We know that, Ashlyn, you told us you're already on a mission and have a plan. Let's start with Jeannie Feldman. What's your plans for 2021 in regards to the lineup for women's physique shows?
Well, right now I am shooting for the Tampa Pro, which I like to do every year. It's my favorite show.
Yes.
I've been doing it already for, I think it's going to be, fourth time? If I do it this year, it will be my fourth time.
Okay.
So I'm shooting for that. I'm just kind of like taking it, trying to work on my weaknesses, work on my legs, because that's my weakness. And
What area of the legs? Let's get more specific.
My quad sweep.
Okay.
My hamstrings, my tie-ins, it's the feedback that the judges are giving me. So trying to grow my legs a little bit more to match my upper body.
Sure.
So I'm shooting for the Tampa Pro, and not doing as many shows as I did last year and the year previous to that, because I did 5 shows in a row, and by the time I got to the Olympia, I was so exhausted mentally, physically, and my body really just shut down.
So what was the span of those shows? You did 5 shows to get Olympia qualified, but what was that time span?
Well, the Arnold was in March.
Okay.
And then I did the Tampa, because it was iffy about which shows we're gonna still, which those shows that we're gonna still have. So I did the Tampa, and then the Tampa was in August, right? And then the New York Pro, which was, right after that. I'm talking 4 weeks in between each show.
Yeah, so it's really.
And then right after that, I jumped to the Chicago, which was either 4 or 6 weeks after that.
Okay.
And then there was the Olympia.
Okay. Yeah.
I was exhausted.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's tough on the body, and that's why it's important to talk about this, and that's why we have you guys on here, because that chasing those points and having to compete and do multiple shows year round, and more importantly, thinking, all right, I got it, I'm at the top of the points list, and then you realize other girls are coming in and winning tiered shows even, and then you're like, okay, now I got to jump back in.
Yeah, girls that just came from nationals jumping on stage, and killing it on that pro stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The quality of athletes that are coming, from amateur to pro.
You always got to be ready to jump in, because that point system changed. One weekend, when there's multiple pro shows, it changes everything. And you sit and look and go, oh my gosh, let's check the Monday update and go, oh wow, okay, my safe place is no longer safe. I got to jump in and do another one just to solidify.
Safe. Yep, never safe.
Never
Very
safe.
true.
Once you think, okay, I've been placing second this show, next show second, you never know who's going to show up and just, take it from under you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, we're going to take a quick, short commercial break for our sponsors, and then when we come back, we'll take it up with Tanya Chartrand to find out what your plans are for 2021.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
All right. So, speaking of plans, 2021, Tanya Chartrand, tell us what your plans are as far as competition, your strategy for 2021.
Well, the strategy is a bit complicated this year as it was last year with COVID and being over here in Canada. Canada has huge travel restrictions right now. So, and they did last year too. So I spent a lot of time in quarantine last year. After doing my shows, I'd come back and have to quarantine for 14 days, gyms closed, the whole nine. So this year I'm trying to look at the strategy a bit different. I'm planning on starting, I was going to do a local BC show. There's a brand new show over here on Vancouver Island for women's physique and bodybuilding. Not sure that show is going to happen. And it piggybacks the Puerto Rico Pro. So I'm thinking that my first show is going to be the Puerto Rico Pro. And then I'm going to probably stay in the States for a couple of months and just piggyback from one show to the next. So probably Omaha, Chicago, Tampa or Phoenix. Haven't decided on either one of those, and just see where the season takes me depending on how I do. likely that's going to be the plan based on not being able to travel back and forth with the restrictions.
Yeah. I know we talked, and you told me about the challenges you had in 2020 as far as the quarantine, because you had to come over and quarantine for 14 days. What, prior to the show and then 14 after? How did that work?
No, when I came back, every time I went to the US, every time I came back, I had to quarantine for 14 days. So I did, and again, when I started prep, it was January of 2020. So it was a long year for me as well, because we were uncertain of when the shows were going to start, when there would be a show to jump into. So I ended up competing my first show in Tampa, but then, coming back home, 2 weeks, quarantine, moving into the next show, coming back, quarantining again for 2 weeks and going again. So it was a very trying time, not being able to get out to a gym. The gyms were closed mostly anyway, but not being able to, being stuck at home and the travel, it was just very difficult.
Well, and that brings up a great question too, because a lot of people don't even think about, like, obviously COVID threw tons of obstacles in people's way, but also you think about the finances. And when girls have to do run of shows, it's not easy. Sometimes the prize money doesn't even compensate you, if you're lucky enough to place, for all of the investment needed to get to the show. But also with you having to quarantine, obviously you can't work. Let us know, is it something that you are able to have sponsors help you out personally? How is it that you are able to do this and still financially be stable?
Well, I have a bit of savings, so that's kind of been helpful. And I have my own business, so I can potentially work wherever I am, which is as long as I have my laptop and a few things, I'm good. So I've been lucky in that aspect. I can take, I have my own schedule. I can take time when I need it and when I don't. So the flexibility has really been a helping hand, in my journey. In terms of sponsors, I don't have any sponsors, and except for a jewelry sponsor who's amazing, by the way. And it's been it's financially straining, obviously, going from show to show, especially this year. I'm thinking about the cost that's going to be involved with actually relocating for a couple of months down to the US, and going from show to show, tanning, hair, makeup, all of it.
It plays a huge role in show selection, because like you said, if you're trying to stay into the States between shows and then skip way across country, that's probably not realistic. But a lot of people aren't in that situation. In the United States, we aren't as restricted right now. Yeah. So it does make it tough for a lot of the international athletes. And I don't think you guys get enough, recognition for what you're having to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So Ashlyn, you're already, you've gone through your shows, some shows this year. What, in regards as far as what do you do, as far as, do you have sponsors? How do you finance the plan of competing in the shows?
Yeah, so I actually do have sponsors, that help me out tremendously, which is great. And then I also do work. I'm a coach, and so I can travel and work and do everything I need to do when I'm gone to. So with that flexibility, like she was saying, is very, very beneficial in this sport. So I never have to take time off or anything like that. It's usually just, I can kind of just block off my day for the show, and then I just start working again the next day. Like, it's nothing. So, but luckily, I feel very fortunate. And I don't know if it's because I do have, such a good following on Instagram that I was asked to be a part of. I'm sponsored by everything. I have a tanning sponsor, I have a suit sponsor, I have a jewelry sponsor, I have a shoe sponsor.
Let's give them a credit.
Yeah, let's
shout it out.
Let's give your sponsors a shout out.
Yeah.
So, tell us your sponsors.
I have ProTan for my tanning sponsor, which they're incredible. And then I have my jewelry and shoe sponsor from the Shoe Fairy. And then I also have a supplement sponsor, but they help pay for all of my shows. So I do get reimbursed for all of my travel, all of my expenses for my shows, which is really nice, from my supplement sponsor, who's Project AD. And then I also have a suit sponsor, Toxic Angel Bikini Suits. So everything that I need is 100% covered. So it's honestly a blessing.
Good for you.
And I couldn't be like more, thankful and lucky that I get to be a part of pretty much every top company that's in the industry right now.
That's amazing. Gotta love that. And now,
Yes.
Tanya, you didn't get to mention yours, so we have to give them a shout out as well.
Oh, it's Body Bling Jewelry.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you're accepting more sponsors as well.
I mean, I have CJ's that sponsors my suit. They're wonderful.
Yes,
Thank
love CJ. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, we could always take more sponsors,
Yeah,
right?
Cynthia
so
James.
sponsors out there listening, they will take more.
Yes, yes.
Now, let's go back real quick. I want to ask, just from each of your personal experience, and let's start out with you, Ashlyn. For doing the run of shows last year, what was the toll it took on your body specifically? We've kind of heard a glimpse from a few of you guys, but was your body just like, oh, this is easy peasy, not a problem? Or were you rolling into Olympia a little stressed? Your body's just kind of like, we're tired.
So I would say the hardest part for me was in the very beginning. So when I started at the very first show, which was San Antonio Pro, that kicked off the season for 2020 Olympia. So I did 9 shows in that time frame.
Wow.
So from August to December, I did 9 shows back to back.
Wow.
9. Yeah.
9 shows.
And
wow.
how did you feel when you got to Olympia?
So I got to have a break, which was great. So in December, that was December of 2019. So then I took a little bit of a break going into 2020. And then I basically took, I want to say it was 8 or 9 weeks before starting my next prep. And then once I started my next prep, that's whenever I was really getting serious about making sure that I was getting enough points to, and hopefully maybe a win, I didn't know, to qualify for the Olympia. So, at that 9th show in the end of 2019, holy moly, I was wiped. Like I literally was like, I was awake every night. I couldn't go to sleep because that's how hungry I was and how tired I was. It was like, I was so tired, I couldn't even sleep.
Yeah.
So that was the worst that I have ever felt in a prep. But I chose to push that very last show. Like I was going to cut off 4 weeks before that last show. I was going to cut off at 8, but my placing was so bad. It was the worst placing that I had ever received as a competitor that it just motivated me to want to do another show.
Yeah.
So I ended up ending that year doing another show, and I got the best placing that I ever got, which was 3rd place as a pro. So I'm glad that I did it, but it was extremely, extremely, extremely hard for me. But I really wanted to do it. My coach was like, Ashlyn, like, you do not have to do this. You've been killing yourself. Like, seriously, we can take a break. And I was like, look, Jamie, I really want to do this. Like, I'm just going to push. It's just a couple more weeks. If I feel like I absolutely can't do it, I'll tell you. But,
fair.
we ended it, and I got the best placing that I ever got, and I was really happy. So then once I took a little break, going into my next show, which was supposed to be Governor's Cup, obviously this is when everything happened with COVID. So I was 2 weeks out whenever they canceled my show.
Oh.
So I was like right there. I was lean. I was ready. I was like good to go. And then COVID happened. So I kind of hung on for a little bit because, to be honest, I really wasn't sure what was going to happen with everything. So I maintained a weight that was like around like 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out for a few months. I did that until shows finally opened up, and I think it was June or July.
Yeah.
It was the Sacramento Pro is what I ended up doing once everything kind of like lifted and I was able to compete with the COVID restrictions. So I competed there, and that was my 2nd place, which is another highest place that I've ever gotten as a pro. That's the first time I placed 2nd as a pro.
Wow.
And so after that, I was just like, well, let's keep going. Like I feel great. I've had plenty of time basically to just like, not freely eat, but not be so strict.
Sure.
So that was a few months that I had been able to just kind of like, eat some things that I want to eat while still staying within my macros that I was given. So,
And your body seemed to then handle that long prep going into Olympia.
Yeah, it was actually like the Olympia, I think, was like the best that my body had looked that entire year.
See, that's obviously a little bit different from you,
Yeah.
Jeannie. You're like, oh, I was tapped out. That makes it tough for sure.
Yeah, because I noticed with Jeannie last year, so this year you decided, you're thinking that Tampa will be your first one, whereas in 2020 you did New York, you did Chicago, and the Arnolds, and all of those shows are prior to.
Yeah.
So you're taking a different approach this year.
Yeah. I feel in order for me to make the improvements, my body to make the improvements that I need to cut down a little bit on the shows.
I see.
You know, and I don't want to go on stage, you know, with small little improvements. You know what I mean? I want to really make a difference. I want the judges to see a big difference.
Yeah. Because the Olympia, this was your second appearance at the Olympia, on the Olympia stage. Yeah, so how do you feel this 2020's appearance versus the prior one, as far as...
Honestly, they were both not very good because of doing so many shows prior. I literally felt that, I mean, no matter what I did, my body just shut down. It was not responding, and my body was, I felt very stressed. I felt because of the stress I was holding water, and I feel that 5 shows is just way too much for me to put my body through.
Okay.
So I'm taking a different approach, maybe fewer shows, and see if, you know.
It's all about learning lessons in reality, right? Each prep, each year teaches us new things about our bodies. And obviously, as we get older, we look back, and at least for myself and a lot of our clients, I'm sure you can speak to this. Everyone's like, my first prep was so easy. Now I'm 6 years into the industry as a pro, and man, it's not that easy. Well, think about it. It's kind of common sense.
Yeah.
Some bodies can handle it, but again, I think a lot of that depends on the division that you're competing in. If it's women's physique, bikini, bodybuilding, fitness. But you just got to do what's best for you, and strategy is crucial.
Absolutely.
So, we all got to learn.
Yep.
Now, Tanya, how was your experience going into Olympia last year with your run of shows?
It was awful. Honestly, after the New York Pro, I was done. I had literally stepped off that stage. I did 2 shows back to back. And I'd only done the New York Pro because when I qualified at the Sharifport Optimum Classic, I was like, well, I've already paid for everything. I'm here. I've only been on a women's physique stage 1 time. So I wanted the experience going into the Olympia of being on the stage more than once as a women's physique athlete. So I did the New York Pro, but after the New York Pro, I was hungry. I was like dieting since January, and my body was
That's
like,
rough.
feed me. So, you know, I kind of went off the rails a little bit for about a week after the New York Pro, and it was the worst thing I could have done. I gained a whole lot of weight, ended up with some digestion problems, and then moving forward into the Olympia, my body was like, yep, you've had enough. You can't. My body just didn't want to do anything. I gained 40 pounds, literally, from the time I stepped off stage in New York.
That's tough on the body. Oh, yeah.
It was really, really hard. So I had to get that off in a matter of like 10 weeks. So I was doing like 3 hours of cardio a day, like things that were just completely unhealthy for my body. I ended up in the hospital.
Wow.
So, you know, I pushed really, really, really hard to get to the Olympia stage. My conditioning wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I also worked really hard because I knew I needed to make big improvements, because being in figure, and then only having 3 weeks to transition to women's physique, I was kind of like in this box with figure, because I had been told in 2019 that I was kind of already borderline in terms of size. So I was toning it down, like don't build any more muscle. And then, of course, as soon as I decided to go to women's physique, it was like, well, now I have to gain all this muscle. And now I'm qualified for the Olympia and I don't have enough muscle. So I really worked super duper hard in those months, probably put way too much stress on my body. I made great improvements in terms of size and muscularity in that time, but I sacrificed some conditioning, and it was really, really hard. It was really, really hard.
Yeah.
So different game plan this year, definitely. I've taken a few good months off, reconditioned my body. I feel really, really good going into this year now, functioning really, really well. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I believe as far as the point system, and it varies from division to division.
Oh, yeah.
In the past, I thought it was always that if you won the show. If you won the Norfolk Pro or the Savannah Pro or the Chicago Pro, like that's it. You don't have to, you can just go to the Olympia, you're automatically qualified for the Olympia. And then I guess it varies, and it depends on the tier. They have tier system.
There's different, and it's changed a lot. And I think that's where there's so much confusion in regards to, wait, how do you get to the Olympia? What are the point system? Because it is different per division. And it's, if you have a division that has 25 shows or less, you're in one set of criteria. If you have 25 shows or more, you're in another set. So again, for bikini, you guys have a ton of shows, but then maybe for women's physique, fitness, bodybuilding, it's a whole different story. So if you're curious about it, obviously ifbbpro.com, as well as NPC News Online, they have all the points qualification. That's the easiest way to figure it out, because there is a lot of confusion. Either way, you gotta run, you gotta do some shows, but if you do win, you do have that opportunity to grace that stage.
And I think that for me, and I know you know this too, I mean, we've won the Olympia, and I remember the only time that I really had where I had the challenges and I had to compete in several competitions, it was as an amateur, and then when I turned pro and then I won the Miss Olympia, then back then it was, okay, you're Miss Olympia, you just sit back,
don't do any other shows.
Don't do any other shows, go eat, throughout the year, try to look good, do guest appearances. You've got the pressure on you, people see you in off season, they're like, oh my God, Lenda Murray, you're fat, but, so then you get to rest. So in that case with you guys, I mean, when you think about the Olympia, if you placed in, let's say, I believe the top 3, I don't know if that's the rule, the top 3 automatically get the opportunity to go back to the Olympia. Is that correct?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Not anymore,
top 3.
no. It's going to be all points unless the winner, Just
the winner of the... See, that's amazing, because back in my day, it was top 10, and you automatically qualified to come back the next year.
But think about it. Now, with the divisions so stacked and so many shows, we would have 100+ athletes on stage in every division. The Olympia would be a 5-day event. So I get that they have to do that, but it is difficult, especially for those athletes that run and they place second, and next show second, and you're like, come on, I'm right there. So it does make it tough.
That's why I have mad respect for you. I mean, like I said, I see you, all of you. I've seen you on stage. I've been to the Tampa Pro, the Chicago Pro, and Puerto Rico, and I see your consistency, and I'm like, wow, like still in great shape. And then I look at the list, and it's like, wow, they made it to the Olympia, and then you get there.
You want to feel good, but it can be rough. Now, let me ask you guys this, and we'll kind of shoot through some of the questions, but there's always that big debate. So say you're already qualified, or you're the points leader. Now, Ashlyn, in your case, you kind of had answered this, how you could have sat and been fine. You would have still made the Olympia, but you did it for personal reasons of going, I'm not ending on a bad note. I want to end on a high note. So, Jeannie, if you have qualified, are you going to do a show to kind of build some momentum going into Olympia, or are you going to rest as long as you can to bring your best?
I believe, it happened to me actually last season. I pretty much qualified after the New York Pro because I was top 3 as far as points. But there was a couple girls that were so close. That if I didn't go do that Chicago Pro, it could have been taken away from me. So I had no other choice.
Wow.
But if I had so many more points ahead, I probably would have rested.
Okay. That's tough. And I think it's kind of up to the athlete too, and how your placings have been. Are you trying to get in front of different judges, get different feedback? Tanya, what's your experience? What would you do? And how was it last year? Were you in that option where you could sit, or just running up until the last little bit?
Well, I qualified in Shreveport, so I did the New York Pro, which was the week after, as I said. I wouldn't take that back for the experience last year, but if I had to do it over again this year, I would definitely just qualify and wait and bring my best for the Olympia. Absolutely, hands down.
Especially since you both said that it wasn't your best. Like, you wish you could have come in a little bit better for the Olympia. So again, kind of using that experience and that knowledge of, I didn't look the best I could, you got to try a different approach. Something's not working exactly as you want, you got to change it.
Right.
Exactly.
There's so much involved in what you have to do preparing for these shows. And as a promoter, I've had athletes that will, email me occasionally and say, who's the head judge? Or they'll email me and say, is the competitors list up? When will the competitors list be posted? So with that said, you don't have to say what judge or not judge, but you take that into consideration? When you're competing, especially with points, when you go and you look at that list, you have to be making like some decisions and some strategy in that.
Sure.
So let's start with Ashlyn. Answer that question.
Oh yeah, you have to be strategic in this sport. You have to. So I do think that judging panels are very important. So knowing what judges you're going to get in front of, because judging panels like some judges like different looks. So like depending on if they like a harder look, a softer look, like what do they typically go for? I'm going to know how to bring in my best for that specific judging panel at that show. So it's always good to know who's going to be on the panel. And then as far as competitors go, I could care less. And that's really because the top of the world athlete can come in off. That can happen. This is just the way that the sport goes.
Yep.
And some people can really surprise you and just show up and win the whole thing. And you're like, I was not expecting that from that athlete.
It
So
happens
you
a
just
lot.
never know. You never know. So I do take the judging panel into consideration 100%, but the athletes not so much.
Okay. And let's move that question on to Tanya.
Judging panel, yes, because I've received feedback from a lot of different judges and it's kind of all over the map. So I kind of know the judges that like my look better than some of the other ones. So I strategically would place myself in front of those judges before some of the other judges. However, saying that, I think it's always a challenge to, make sure that you're bringing a package that's going to be appealing to all of the judges. So I don't shy away from, well, just because that person's judging this show, I'm not going to do that show. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to bring a package that all of the judges are going to like in order to achieve what you want to do in the sport or to achieve the end result, which is the Olympia stage. So yes and no. In terms of that. In terms of athletes, if you're going to go to the Olympia stage, you're going to stand against the best in the world anyway. So, you just got to do your best and make your improvements on your physique based on the feedback that you get from the judges. And, you're your own competition. We all want to win, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to hold back on a show because I know X, Y, and Z is coming. That's just not the way I'm going to look at things, for sure.
And now, Jeannie, same question, but I'm going to throw something else at you. Okay. I'm curious if you consider prize money as well as swag bags, the experience of the show and who the promoter is. Does that go into your strategy for show selection?
I'm going to say, no, not really, actually. I mean, the promoters, maybe. I love Tim Gardner's shows. I think he puts together amazing shows. And it has to do a lot with, I like to be in front of the judges that are the Olympia judges, just to know exactly when it comes to the Olympia, they've seen me before. And, I mean, and I don't think that I choose shows based on judges or whoever's competing or anything like that. But because I'm from Miami, a lot of the good shows are here in Miami. I mean, in Florida, a lot of, the Tampa Pro and everything, switched over to, I've been fortunate that it switched over to Orlando and Tampa. So I've been choosing, if I can do it local, I'd rather stay local.
Sure.
That's kind of like, and all depending, on when I want to start, what show I want to do, when I want to start my prep. That's kind of how I choose my shows. So.
Well, we've got more questions, but we're going to take a quick break, show our sponsors who are supporting the show and all the amazing athletes. So we will be right back. More to come. And we're back with more questions for our 3 phenomenal Olympia qualified athletes who competed. And of course, you're all 3 going to be back on stage again this year.
Absolutely.
Mark our words here. But Lenda was just telling us that she, in all her years competing and winning a gazillion Olympia titles, never walked up to a judge and directly asked for feedback, which is pretty common nowadays, but not everyone does it. And so now we're curious. Tanya, have you ever walked up directly to a judge, or how do you get your feedback?
Usually emails. I am kind of like scared to do that. I'm not sure why. My coach is always on me. Come on, go get your feedback. Stand there. Make sure that you get it. It's the most important time. They've just seen you on stage. You need to go down and get your feedback. But how do you do that? They're judging the show. You get off stage. Do you wait until the end of the show? Is there a lineup of people? Do you like push everybody out of the way and say, look at me, look at me? I mean, it's very kind of, I always feel like I'm impeding on the judges, and that's the last thing I want to do. I know everybody does it, but it's just something I haven't been able to wrap my head around. So,
well, and the thing is, if you're timid or you're hesitating, you don't want to give that impression, right? Because when you hit the stage, you got to express confidence, like it's just oozing out of you. So, you know, for some people, maybe that's easier, where it's like, oh, here's my pictures, going to email. And to your point too, not all the judges stay after and are available for that feedback. So I think that plays a role as well.
Yeah, because I know Sandy, she's always available.
Yes.
And then like with Steve, he gets his stuff and he's out. And I'm like, oh, you know, even now it's just, it would be challenging. But yeah, I was the same way. Just nervous about it, timid, like, oh, I don't want to stop, you know. I'll send them, I'll do it the sneaky way. I'll like, take a picture and send it to them. But I do get that.
Ashlyn, what is your approach? How do you get judges' feedback?
Oh yeah, I wait every time. And there's usually a line, so I just wait in line.
Okay,
and then,
all right.
Yeah, I just go up to them. I want to introduce myself to all of them. I want them to know, like, you know, that I am really serious about making improvements, and I want to know what they think. And it's just nice to get that FaceTime. You know, I really think it's important for a person to get that personality to a face, especially if they don't know you or they don't see you a lot. So it's always nice to go up and just introduce yourself and ask for feedback. I do it every time, every show.
Yeah.
And
that's
Jeannie,
a smart way.
What about for you? What's your approach?
Well, in the beginning, I was very timid too. And I was, you know, I would do the emails as well. I was, you know, I'm a little shy like that. And I felt like, you know, like I didn't want to bother the judges, you know, like I was bothering them but then after a while, after a few shows, I was like, you know what? No, I need to go up there and I need to talk to them. And, you know, so they see my face, get to know me maybe a little bit more, you know, than just seeing me on stage, you know, and talk to them face to face. So now I wait, you know, and I'll talk to them after the show when you know, when everything's done. They can give me a few words of, you know, to tell me where, you know, I can improve and stuff for the next season. So.
So have any of you received feedback from a judge, taken it, and then you recognize that your placing's improved? Because I've heard that. I know, for example, if a judge comes up, I've had athletes and they say, you know, I think you should switch from women's physique to bodybuilding, and they're on the fence about that. I said, listen, if you walked up, you asked that judge, she told you that she thinks you should make that switch, and then you continue.
What if you didn't?
I mean, it's right. What do you think? But I see people fight that, and now a lot of people like, oh, they're not as, you know, smart as the way Tanya just made that decision, and you switch from figure into women's physique. So have you received feedback and it worked in your favor because it was, the judges know what they're talking about? Have any of you, let's say Ashlyn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they are actually impressed when you listen and do what they ask you to do and show up again and just bring exactly what they're looking for. It's like they really appreciate. I've gotten, every time that's happened to me and I bring the improvements that they ask, I always get told that they're really appreciative and that they know exactly what I changed and that they're happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and they see little things. I mean,
Yeah.
I was shocked with, I went to a posing seminar, and Gary Yuta, he was like showing the women how to, like with bikini, and he was, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're posing, and I'm like, wow, have you been in heels
Right.
before?
But it
You
was
do it
cute,
so well.
and it makes a lot of sense.
I will say, I've received feedback. One year, it was one Olympia, they said, too small, why don't you put on about 5 pounds? And this was kind of a consensus amongst 3 judges. I was like, 5 pounds, okay. Worked a whole year, put on 5 pounds, and then guess what? They said, yeah, we all agree that did not look good on you.
Okay.
So it's word, I've done it, and they said, no, we were wrong,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
So you gotta do, if you're gonna ask for feedback, I feel like you need to be prepared for what they're gonna say.
You are right.
And you gotta do it, because God forbid you don't, that might backfire.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's not always the best thing. They're
Yeah.
judges too, they're not perfectionists.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, it does. It does. So I have the one last question, and I will ask each of you. And I'm actually asking that you address this your answer to the NPC, the amateurs out there, because I hear all the time. I want my pro card. I want my pro card. I want my
Yeah.
pro card. Okay, now that you guys have your pro card, your IFBB Pro League professionals, what's the difference prior to the IFBB to the NPC to now being an IFBB Pro? Let's start with you, Ashlyn.
I would say the biggest difference is probably just you get taken a little bit more seriously, and you have obviously more stage time, stuff like that. And I just believe that, it's just one of those things where you earn that spot. So I do think that, being an amateur, there's so many, there's a good amount of pros too, but there's so many amateurs, So it's like being able to kind of shine through that, get the pro card, that's a huge accomplishment. So I do think that they do, the judging panel and just people in general really, do respect the pros a little bit more, just because they did earn that spot as a pro.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say it's just more of like a respect thing, and just you get more time on stage and, stuff like that.
Yep.
And Jeannie, what about you?
I mean, yeah, I have to agree with her about that too. I mean, you get a little bit more recognition as a pro, I mean, I wasn't an amateur for very long. I mean, I went from my first show and I turned pro right away. So I don't really know that part of it. Fortunately, I mean,
Okay.
maybe,
You're one of the lucky ones. That's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
but I do, from what little experience I have, I do feel like, yeah, you get a little bit more, I guess, recognition and more respect as a pro. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can,
Yeah, because they call your name. They say
Yeah.
Jeannie. They don't
You're not-
say
you're not a
number
number.
25 or number.
Exactly.
Yes.
when you know you made it.
Yes, when you know you made
Yes.
it. Yes.
Right.
All right, and you, Tanya.
I think the biggest thing, again, piggybacking from what they're saying, I totally agree with that. But on the other side of it, I think as an athlete, being an amateur and then being a professional, there's a different mindset and there's a different way or a different outlet or outlook that you have to have. So I wasn't an amateur for very long either. I did 3 shows and won my pro card. So again, just even in the beginning of my career, before I was able to make it to the Olympia stage, I was still kind of like an on and off athlete. I took the sport very seriously, but I wasn't a year round athlete. Like, I'm going to be consistent every single day. And I'm going to, the gym was always consistent. The diet wasn't always consistent. So now as, an athlete and a pro moving forward into the ranking system, it feels like every day is living as a pro. It's not just like an on and an off season.
Yes.
It's a lifestyle, and you really have to dedicate your whole mind, body, and soul to it every single day in order to get better and to continue to compete with all of the highest level athletes. So I think that that's a bit of a switch, is just the mindset and the dedication towards everyday life.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yep, on point. Great answers, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us on FemFlex Friday. Best pros, like I said, you ladies are the foundation of our industry, and I appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you on stage in 2021. Thank you,
yeah.
Jeannie. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ashlyn.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
so much.
Yes.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you.